When Overwatch first came out, I was pretty excited as an avid Team Fortress 2 fan. But when I started playing and realized that rocket jumping, basically the most iconic mechanic in the FPS genre, had been replaced with a single button press, I literally just quit the game. Now, was this a fair and reasonable way for me to have judged Overwatch? Yeah, I think so. But listen, hear me out. Once you spend enough time with games where the movement is tight, nuanced, and technical, like in TF2, the act of executing that movement becomes deeply carved into your neural pathways. In essence, it's like having brainworms that can kickflip. There's just this certain deep satisfaction that comes with having even the most rudimentary mastery of complex traversal mechanics. In the vast majority of games, since you spend 95+% of your time controlling your character, having a toolbox full of movement options lets that time feel well spent. Sick-ass movement comes at the cost of challenge, but the initial learning process is packed with these tiny wins as you nail down the building blocks for the first time. And once you're able to start to take those individual skills and actually piece them together, that steady drip feed of satisfaction turns into a torrential flow state. In 1993, this old shooter called, I can never pronounce this, Daum, decided to let you use a rocket launcher as a weapon. And if you shot a rocket and got hit by the explosion, your guy would go, ow, and get kind of knocked backwards. Then, a few years later, this other old game called Quake copied the rocket launcher from Daum. But this time, if you shot yourself with a rocket, your guy would go, brrrr. Rocket jumping is the basic result of a physics system that preserves momentum and also lets you play with explosives. It's very easy to understand conceptually, but in practice, not so much. At all moments of the skill, you must adhere to the law of gravity while at the same time do your best to violate it. Every rocket you shoot requires proper timing and precise aim. The best rocket jumpers in the world have spent thousands of hours honing this shit, and yet still, there's more that's left to master. That is, unless all you have to do is press shift. Mario has set and continues to set the standard for what it means to be a 3D platformer, and yet the most impressive thing about the franchise is that they nailed this shit from day one. In 1996, same year as Quake, Nintendo dropped the N64, and with it came Super Mario 64. 64 has all the bells and whistles when it comes to movement tech. You've got hit, you've got hop, you've got zoop, you've even got slide. But on top of that, you've got the jank, which takes a world that was already surprisingly open-ended and lets you treat it like a limitless playground. Mario 64 is, pretty decisively, the GOAT of speedrunning games, and it earns that title thanks to the game's willingness to just hand the player a box full of tools and say do whatever the fuck you want. It is an incredible amount of respect that is given to the player from a game made by a company that has demonstrated such little respect for its fans. Super Smash Bros. Melee is, in my opinion, the gold standard for buttery movement when it comes to 2D platformers. It is literally the origin of the term schmovement. When you first start playing Melee, it feels clunky and unwieldy, because the game is so strict about how it handles inputs. But that strictness enables extremely responsive controls, and once your inputs become tight enough, your character starts to feel like an extension of yourself. Every character in Melee offers a unique sensation with their gameplay, having their own individual cadences and tempos when you play them. Fox and Falco have identical movesets, but Fox is smooth peanut butter, while Falco is extra crunchy, skippy, super crunch, and Knuckles. Moving around in Melee feels so damn good that it is actively difficult to engage in inaction. Watch literally any competitive set of Melee, and you'll find that every single player spends their downtime between stocks schmoving around the stage. When you have the brainworms, they need to kickflip. As the games industry has grown and developers have increasingly prioritized super approachable control schemes, indie games have carried the mantle when it comes to offering access to high mastery schmovement. When I was a kid, the hottest shit on the web was Flash, and after slogging through hundreds of shitty Flash games, I discovered N. The movement in N has this flow to it that I had never experienced before. Getting around each level really makes you feel like the little ninja dude you're playing as. Later, games like Super Meat Boy popped up, which further exhibited a clear and deliberate effort to offer movement that was both highly fluid while also honoring the inputs of the player. Dust Force, Speedrunners, Ori and the Blind Forest, and come on, you knew it was coming, Celeste all put great care towards great game feel. More recently, games that pay direct homage to their predecessors have also cropped up, like Waveland, Entropylian Recursor, and Breakneck Emergence. Breakneck Flow. Kinetic Surge. Kinetic Break All Limits. In the past several years, something I never expected to happen has occurred in the world of shmovement. Major innovations that go beyond traditional FPS and platforming. Firstly, I've got to talk about Fortnite. Over the past 5 years, public opinion on Fortnite has ebbed and flowed. But throughout it all, there has been a general lack of recognition of just how fucking incredible and deep the building system in this game is. And to be fair,
What the hell is this?
that makes sense. But Fortnite's building mechanic has very genuinely changed the game. Historically, your ability to shmove has always been at the whim of the environment around you. Building in Fortnite takes that dilemma and flips it on its head, letting you climb around your own DIY obstacle course in real time. I have gripes with how Epic handles Fortnite as a game, but when I did play Fortnite actively, I could spend hours doing nothing but build in an empty world. Truthfully, I don't think I've ever played a game where the simple act of moving around has felt so serene. I was a pretty early adopter of commercial VR. The headset itself was cool and all, but once they added the controllers, one session of Superhot and I was fucking sold. The most glaring issue with VR games, however, is that traversal usually sucks ass. Most often, you're relegated to either pointing to teleport or extremely basic linear movement using the joysticks, both of which understandably attempt to avoid offending our sensibilities. So for a while, the most interesting approach I tried was Echo VR's zero gravity movement. It was neat, it certainly offered a lot to master, but it never really wowed me. At the end of the day, floating in space feels, well, floaty. And then I learned about Gorilla Tag. You're a gorilla, you only have 2 arms, when you push against the terrain, it pushes you back. The goal? Play tag with other gorillas. Just like rocket jumping, Gorilla Tag offers a simple physics premise that elegantly hits the sweet spot between being highly intuitive and highly nuanced. Figuring out how to get around in this world feels like learning how to fly, and watching the top players move is completely mesmerizing. You top everything off with these charming low poly graphics and the low price of $0.00, and you have a pretty sweet game. The only problem is that once you cross the threshold and enter a public lobby, you are immediately confronted with an adolescent anarchy hellscape. Luckily, you can play with your friends. All of your friends in their late 20s who own a VR headset and still game. Yeah. I guarantee you that in 10 years, there will be kids turned adults who still play Gorilla Tag in order to seek a meditative comfort in its shmovement. And that's because at the end of the day, shmovement is a form of self-expression. It's taking what you have, coming up with a goal, and finding a way to achieve it that satisfies you. So go out there. Find something that you think looks cool. Try it and suck. And then keep sucking until one day you realize that something that used to feel hard feels kind of seamless. Relish that feeling, and then try the next thing that seems cool to you. You're on your way. Good luck. Have fun.